Have you ever been hurt by the person you loved most? Not with shouting, not with violence, but with cold silence, with quiet words that cut like razor blades, and with jokes everyone else laughed at. Except you. I used to think I was just too sensitive. That if I tried a little harder, my husband would finally see me. That he'd notice I was still there, still loving him. Until the night he reached into the fish tank in our living room, pulled out a goldfish, held it up in front of his friends, and said, "This is how my wife has sex." Mouth open, eyes glazed, no reaction. Everyone laughed, except me. I stood in the kitchen still holding the tray of snacks. And in that moment, I knew I would never laugh again. And that's where everything began. Chapter 1: The Goldfish and That Dead-Eyed Look. There's a moment in life when you think, ah, this is it. This is the moment something in me just snapped. For me, that moment happened on a Thursday poker night less than 2 weeks ago, and it started with a goldfish. I was in the kitchen putting together a snack tray up to code for my husband and his buddies. Not just any snacks, would do Marcus had an entire checklist, no greasy stuff, nothing that leaves crumbs, and absolutely nothing that sticks to your fingers. Because if a single smear of cheese touched the gear shift in his car, I'd be hearing about it all week. From the living room, I heard them laughing. Then his younger brother asked casually, "When are you finally gonna have a kid?" Marcus answered smoothly, "We're trying." Another guy chimed in, "Maybe get tested or something." Then Marcus smirked and said, "I did get tested. It's her fault. She doesn't even react anymore." I froze a plate in my hand. I was about to step out when I heard a splash, followed by more laughter. Marcus had reached into the fish tank in the living room. He pulled out Emma's goldfish, the one my daughter had raised for the past 3 years, and held it in his hand, flailing and gasping. "Being with her is exactly like this," Marcus said, mouth open, blank stare, no reaction. The guys burst out laughing, but he wasn't done. He continued, "My ex-wife, straight up adult film star. This corpse I married now defective product. Someone cracked a joke, just swap wives, man. I've got a business trip next week. Let's do a little product sampling." And the room erupted again. I didn't step into the living room. I just stood there, still holding the now cold plate of snacks. My ears were ringing. My face was burning. I didn't even feel like a person anymore, just an object. Something on display rated mocked and discarded. Marcus tossed the goldfish back into the tank, then clapped his hands like he'd just nailed a performance. I stared through the crack of the kitchen door. He didn't know I was standing there. Didn't realize that exact moment was the point of no return. I didn't cry. I wasn't even shocked. I just felt empty. And then something strange crept in. Silence. Clarity. As if I had just made a decision one I hadn't even fully named yet. Chapter 2: Marcus's True Face. I don't know where to begin. Or more accurately, I don't know where to begin again. Because what I saw that night wasn't new. It was simply the raw, unmasked version of the man I once loved. Marcus used to make you feel like the center of the universe. When I met him, I was 28, tired of pointless dating, and he came across like a grown man in a sea of boys. Confident, goal-oriented, articulate, or at least someone who knew how to listen with intent. We met at a networking event. He made me a cup of coffee, smiled and asked about my job with the kind of look that made me believe maybe this is the man who won't leave me talking to the kitchen wall every night. We got married 14 months later. The honeymoon was a 10-day cruise through the Caribbean. While I was savoring kisses under the sunset, Marcus was probably planning how to post the yacht pics without looking too showy on Instagram. The change began the moment we stepped off that ship. It wasn't obvious. It didn't come crashing in. It crept in subtle quiet, like someone slowly pulling the rug out from under your feet, cold and calculated. "You're beautiful. Now I just need to tighten that belly a bit, and you'd be perfect. My ex-wife used to do this special move in bed. You probably don't know it. You're really going to wear that dress. It makes your shoulders look wide." At first, I gave awkward laughs. I thought maybe he was just trying to help. Later, I realized it was manipulation. He wanted me to always feel less than never enough so I wouldn't dare leave him. Marcus loved cars. No worshipped them. His BMW M5 competition was the one thing he treated better than himself. I once ate a granola bar in the car just once, and he didn't speak to me for 2 days. Sex with Marcus stopped being about intimacy. It became a test, a metric, a way for him to tally up scores in his head and rate me like I was a machine under performance review. I remember one night I had just been crying from work stress. Marcus pulled me into the bedroom without saying a word. When it was over, he sighed and said, "Probably a 6. You need to learn how to look more into it." I didn't leave. I stayed. Maybe because I didn't want the label woman who walked out on her husband. Maybe because he once whispered into my ear, "No one wants used goods, sweetheart." But mostly I stayed because I believed things could get better until our baby died. And Marcus stood by the empty crib and told me, "Stop crying. Your body knew you weren't ready to be a mother." Then he said I should quit my job to focus on getting healthy. That poker night wasn't the first time he insulted me. It was just the first time he felt safe enough to do it publicly. As for me, I wasn't afraid anymore. There was only one question echoing in my mind. If I'm already a dead fish, can a dead fish fight back? Chapter 3. The Miscarriage and the Silence. That followed. When I found out I was pregnant, I thought, no matter what, at least in that moment, Marcus would change. He'd soften. He'd become the husband I once believed he was. Instead, I miscarried in the 11th week, and everything collapsed. I still remember that day vividly. The ER was freezing. The monitor beeped steadily. The doctor said, "There's no more heartbeat." I just nodded. I didn't cry, didn't say a word, as if my body had already known. I came home. I didn't go into the bedroom. I walked straight into the small room we'd painted cream 2 weeks earlier, the nursery. I laid down on the floor beside the half-assembled crib, hands over my stomach, numb from the emptiness. Marcus didn't come in. He stood at the doorway, eyes dry, arms crossed, like he was attending a boring presentation. Then he said, "Don't overreact. Your body's just telling you it's not ready." After a beat of hesitation, he added, "You should quit your job. Focus on having a baby. Besides, less stress means fewer miscarriages." I still said nothing. But in that moment, something inside me cracked, just a tiny fracture, silent but deep. In the weeks that followed, I returned to work like a ghost. Marcus acted as if nothing had happened, still ordered his morning coffee, still rolled his car out of the garage like clockwork. He never asked if I was okay, never mentioned the baby, not a hug, not even a, "I'm sorry." I told myself maybe he was grieving too. Maybe he just didn't show it like I did. But then I saw him, 2 weeks later, laughing and chatting with his secretary over lunch like nothing had changed. And I realized he wasn't grieving. He was just annoyed his perfect family brand had been temporarily interrupted. After that loss, I wasn't a wife, wasn't a mother. I was just a failed prototype. And Marcus, he was still the man who knew how to stand tall, right through the pain of everyone else. Chapter 4. Poker Night. The Final Slap. I don't even remember exactly why I agreed to prepare the food for poker night that day. Maybe it was habit. Maybe some small part of me still wanted to pretend things were normal. But truthfully, I think I was waiting for something. A catalyst, an undeniable sign. A final push that would let me let go. And I got it, in the form of a goldfish. It was a Thursday. Marcus had invited over his closest friends, a bunch of mid-30s men who talked like teenage boys on their first beer. I was in the kitchen quietly, arranging snacks on a tray, ears tuned to their noise from the living room. They always laughed too loudly, but Marcus's voice was always the clearest, confident, showy, laced with performance. Then his younger brother Jake asked a simple question. "So when are you having kids?" Marcus smirked like it was the opening line of his stand-up routine. "We're trying," he said, "but it's hard. I'm lucky if I can even drag her into bed. The room rippled with soft chuckles. Then another guy suggested, maybe get checked out. Could be your fault. Marcus sighed, acting exhausted. I did. It's her? Touching her is like reaching into a freezer. The room went quiet for a moment. Then I heard a splash, the sound of water, bubbles, then a burst of laughter. I leaned over and peeked through the kitchen crack, and my heart sank. Marcus was standing next to my daughter's fish tank. His hand was in the water pulling out her little goldfish, the one Emma had raised since kindergarten. It flailed in his grip, panicked, helpless, and Marcus laughed. Being with my wife is exactly like this, he said, lifting the fish up. Mouth open, eyes glazed, no response. The guys roared like it was the best joke they'd ever heard. One of them joked, "What's it like, man? Sleeping with a corpse." Marcus shrugged. "It's exactly that." Then he tossed the fish back into the tank, like discarding a defective toy. I don't know how long I stood there. I didn't rage, didn't scream, didn't cry. I just felt cold. Bone deep, cold. When Marcus walked into the kitchen to ask if there was more beer, I just looked at him. And for the first time, I saw nothing. No husband. No love. No pain. Just a stranger. A man who had just killed the last living thing inside me. Hope. Chapter 5. The Revenge of the Fish. I used to believe that if I stayed quiet long enough, endured enough, things would eventually get better. My mistake was thinking that silence equaled strength. The truth. It only makes the abuser bolder. After the goldfish night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling until sunrise without blinking. My mind was blank, but my body was wide awake in the strangest way. At 7 a.m., Marcus left the house, as if everything was perfectly normal to go polish his car. And I started my plan. When a man loves his car more than his wife, you learn everything there is to know about it. Marcus had spent hours lecturing me about the cabin's air filtration system, about the scent-absorbing foam under the leather seats, about how, if anything with a smell got into that system, it would require replacing the entire interior. I'm no mechanic, but I am the woman who was called a dead fish in front of 5 men eating snacks I had made with my own hands, and I knew exactly what to do. While Marcus went out to buy a new Gucci belt because he couldn't risk scratching his car in a public lot, I made my move. I drove to the fish market in San Pedro wearing gloves, a face mask, and carrying a cooler bag. Yes, every vendor asked, "What are you looking for?" I smiled politely. Whatever's cheapest. Oily. And almost turning. I left with nearly 5 kilos of mackerel sardines and a bit of scad. Everything Marcus had banned me from cooking because it stinks up the curtains. Back home, I popped the hood, carefully unscrewed the air filter cover. Each piece of fish was sliced small and shoved deep into the air system right where Florida summer heat would do its magic. Another portion went under the back seat into door gaps, speaker holes, and the fattiest slices I saved them for the engine bay, the hottest place of all. No blood, no stains, no smell yet. But I knew in just a few days the BMW Marcus loved more than me would become a fish-scented coffin. I washed up, cleaned everything meticulously, sealed the trash, and drove 5 kilometers to dump it in a public bin. By the time I returned, Marcus had just gotten home. He walked past me, proud of his new belt. I smiled, softly, as if nothing had happened. And in that moment, I felt alive again. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had a choice. Chapter 6. Total Exposure. The next morning, Marcus grumbled that there was a weird smell in the car. I shrugged. Maybe something died under the chassis. He nodded thoughtfully, then rolled his car out of the garage like it was just another day. Unaware that smell was about to drag the fake world he'd spent years building straight to its grave. I made myself a cup of coffee, sat down at the kitchen table, opened my phone, and at exactly 6 a.m., I made the first post. Just a short status, 3 years of marriage, and my husband compared me to a dead fish. It's time to document the truth. 50 comments came in within the hour. Old college friends started messaging me. The poker wives began tagging each other. By noon, Marcus noticed. He stood in the kitchen glaring at his phone, jaw clenched. Take it down. I looked up, calm. No, I'll change all your passwords. Lock your accounts. Try me. He slammed the cabinet, yanked out his phone, and called someone. I recognized his mom's voice on the other end. As for me, I just kept eating my toast. For the first time in months, it didn't feel like cardboard stuck in my throat, but I knew I had to do more. I needed proof, and I had it. A few months earlier, after Marcus humiliated me in front of his friends, I started recording everything, and I had that night word for word, from mouth open, eyes glazed to the disturbing chorus of male laughter. I posted the recording on a backup account with the caption, "When a man confidently mocks his wife in front of 5 people and they all laugh. This isn't just a joke. This is a system." The audio spread like wildfire. Marcus's brother Jake called him voice, shaking. You really said that? I can't believe it." Marcus deflected. "You laughed, too," Jake snapped. "'Cause you're my brother. But now, I'm the father of a daughter." And I can't imagine anyone ever saying that about her. I didn't interfere, I just listened. And posted again. Screenshots from Marcus's phone, texts with his buddies rating women, yes, even his best friend's wife. Screenshots of an Excel spreadsheet where Marcus ranked our sex life alongside his ex's, with notes like low energy, hard to control, wish she'd take notes from Emma. When Marcus saw me typing up a new post, he stormed into the room. "Are you insane? Are you trying to ruin my life?" I turned around, looked him dead in the eyes. "Ruin your life? Or did you start that the night you pulled your daughter's goldfish out and made a joke of it?" Marcus went silent. And for the first time, I saw him lost, disoriented. His rage didn't scare me anymore because this time, I had hundreds of people behind me. I had the truth. I had the receipts. And more than anything, I had myself no longer silent, no longer shrinking. And this was only the beginning. Chapter 7, From Viral to Ruin. I don't know which post was the final straw. Maybe it was the poker night recording. Maybe it was the spreadsheet photo where he rated women's bodies like consumer goods. Or maybe it was the detail of a goldfish being flung back into its tank like a rag as grown men laughed around it. But one thing I know for certain, that morning Marcus woke up and his world was no longer the same. His phone buzzed nonstop. Notifications from Instagram group chats, company emails. Close friends messaged, "Dude, did you actually say that stuff?" A coworker sent him a link to a post going viral on a women's forum, the wife called a dead fish, and her husband's rotten stench. When Marcus looked at me, his face had gone pale. "What are you doing?" "You're ruining my reputation." I smiled. Not a bitter smile, but the kind of smile from someone who's just found herself again. "No, I'm just cleaning up the mess you've been sweeping under the rug for 3 years." That was the first day I saw Marcus. Confused. Not angry. Not sarcastic. But scared. And that day I kept going. I received a message from Emma, the ex he used to compare me to. He did the exact same thing to me. Rankings. Comments. Comparisons. I still have the file. You want it? I nodded even though she couldn't see me. A community began to form. A former coworker messaged to say Marcus had once hit on her at a company party. His best friend's wife wrote, "My husband told me that after every poker night, Marcus would pull up pictures of you and say I should hit the gym like his ex." The stories kept pouring in. And Marcus, he cracked bit by bit. He stopped driving to work because now his precious BMW smelled like a fish market in mid-July. Interior cleaners refused the job. One even sent back a quote $45,000 to replace the entire cabin interior, no guarantee the smell would be gone. Marcus started blaming me, said I drugged him, said I was playing mind games. Then came the flowers, a bouquet with a note. You're a 10 in my heart. I placed it next to the picture of his sex spreadsheet, the one that read, wife, 4.5, lacks passion, low reaction, and I posted it to my story. My story had spread beyond Reddit. TikTok clips were surfacing. One girl paired my narration about the car reeking of dead fish with a dramatic remix track. The community didn't just support me, they amplified it, and they shared their own stories too. I was no longer alone. Marcus, on the other hand, was. Under the light of truth, his shiny exterior began peeling away, and no one wanted to touch what was underneath. Chapter 8, Divorce and Awakening. 10 days after that fateful night with the goldfish, Marcus moved out. Not out of guilt, not out of shame, but because he couldn't stand the smell in his car. His precious BMW M5, now a mobile fish steamer, was the first thing to leave the house. But even the garage started to reek. Eventually, Marcus gave up and started sleeping at his office. He thought that would free him from me. But what he never understood was I never set out to destroy him. I just wanted people to see who he really was, using his own words, the very ones he used to crush me. On the day of the mediation hearing, Marcus showed up in a wrinkled suit, sweating through his shirt, climbing out of a rented Toyota Corolla. No more luxury car, no more designer cologne, no more glow of success. He began the session with a self-pity monologue. I've lost everything, my reputation, my job, my relationships, all because of her. I sat across the table, silent. Then I calmly listed, you called me a dead fish, called me a warm hole, rated me like a math assignment, compared me to your ex, secretly filmed me sleeping, created a Tinder account while I was in the hospital recovering from a miscarriage. The mediator blinked rapidly. Marcus's lawyer lowered his head, avoiding eye contact, and then his mother walked in. Unannounced. I expected her to defend her son like she always had, but this time she stepped forward, looked Marcus straight in the eyes, and said, you are the greatest disappointment of my life. I hoped marriage would help you grow, but now I see clearly you learned to degrade women from your father. The room went still. Marcus couldn't say a word. My lawyer placed two options on the table. Option 1, I take everything the law entitles me to. Marcus walks away with nearly nothing. Option 2, I accept a fair split. No one sinks. I simply walk away. I looked at Marcus. He was sweating, probably wondering how much I knew about his secret accounts. I signed option 2. I chose dignity. Not because I still loved him, but because I didn't want to carry any part of him into my new life. Not even revenge. Chapter 9, Rebirth. I am no longer a dead fish. The day the divorce was finalized, the sun was blazing. But for the first time in a very long time, the sunlight didn't feel like it was burning me. It felt warm, gentle, like the feeling you get when you finally peel off a suffocating shirt you've worn for years without realizing it. I walked out of the courthouse with a small bag of belongings. Nothing expensive, nothing flashy. But in my heart, I had everything I needed. Freedom, truth, and myself. I stopped by a little flower shop by the roadside. No roses, no perfectly curated bouquets. I chose a bunch of sunflowers, bright, reaching upward, always turning toward the light. The vendor asked, who are they for? I smiled. For me. My new apartment is on the 3rd floor. It's small, filled with sunlight, and it smells like nothing. No more fish. No ghosts of the past. I didn't bring my wedding ring. didn't bring any of the luxury gifts Marcus had once given me. I donated all of them to a women's shelter. They were no longer symbols of love. They were relics from a man who tried to hide his poison behind expensive labels. I hung a small painting on the wall, a goldfish swimming in a tiny glass jar, its face pointed upward, not as a memorial to my trauma, but as a reminder I swam out. I am no longer the woman who was compared to a dead fish. I am a survivor, a storyteller, a woman who looked back, spoke up, and moved forward without apologizing for being alive. And if you're listening to this, if you've ever been labeled rated, made to feel like you're worth, live somewhere outside of yourself, I want you to know this. You are not a dead fish. You are breathing, and you can swim away whenever you choose. I used to be the dead fish in someone else's story. I used to stay silent. I used to endure. I used to believe that if I was quiet enough, kind enough, obedient enough, maybe love would find its way back to me. But the truth is, some people don't love anyone but themselves. They're not looking for a partner, they're looking for someone to control, to rate, to standardize, to use as a mirror for their own toxic ego. And when you stop reacting, they toss you aside like a goldfish because you're no longer entertaining. But you're not a fish, you're not a piece of furniture, you're a human being, and you deserve to be heard, to be loved, to live a life where you never have to apologize for simply existing. If you're in a relationship that makes you shrink smaller and smaller each day, please remember this. You can swim away. And out there, an entire ocean is waiting for you. Thank you for listening to my story.